But
hey guys, it's Tessa.
That is it.
I know I just uploaded this video.
But that is it for today's video. If you have any questions or have any feedback,
I am trying to redeem the Taiga Hood. That's just what I'm calling it right now. I'm trying to redeem myself from that. Because yes, it works, but again, I hate that yarn. I didn't meet the gauge properly. There was a couple of issues that just could have been avoided. So this time, I'm using a 5mm hook instead of a 4. And instead of using super thin, crappy yarn, I'm going to use the Big Twist Supernova in the colorway Starburst. I have 2 of these, which totals out to over 900 yards, but I supposedly only need around 400 for the larger size. I have started it because I wanted to make sure I hit the gauge correctly, and I have. This yarn is actually working up kind of cool as well, but we are again working this as a flat panel, and I hopefully can make this correctly this time. I'm not too far into it, so part of me does want to frog this all back and work in the round instead, just turning my work for every row. But I know that's not going to get the correct curl on the hood, so I think I'm just going to try to stick with the pattern. And maybe the thing I'll do differently is when I'm doing the seaming, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll use thread instead of doing the single crochets, especially towards that top piece, because that top piece is going to do the same thing again. So I'm not really sure how to avoid that, or maybe I just don't do the curve, which I think is okay as well. But yeah, so I've already started it. I'm not really that far. I'm only on row 24. So I'm going to keep working on this for the night. And really my goal with this one is just, I want it to be a little bit bigger. I want it to be a little bit longer. I want to get more of the like full hood effect. I feel like with that first one I made, it was just a little bit too small. It was just a little bit too small. And so I think the solution to that would just be getting closer to the gauge, and then if needed, increasing a couple extra rows when we get to the portion right before the bobble stitches. If you don't know exactly what I'm talking about, I don't want to reiterate essentially the entire pattern again, so you can check out that video, or you can just pretend to play along, whatever works for you. But yeah, so the other change I have made as well is instead of chaining 3 at the start of each row, I'm only chaining 2. I think it's just easier. It makes it a little bit easier to follow. It makes it a little bit easier, or I know it's going to make it a little bit easier during the seaming, because you're not going to have that extra chain there taking up too much additional space. But that is the only modification I have made so far. Otherwise I plan on sticking to the script. When it comes to the bobble stitches there at the end of the hood, I think my plan is going to be, again, following the pattern, but I think I'm just going to be a little bit tighter with my stitches this time, because I've noticed when I do those bobble stitches, especially if I'm repeatedly doing rows of them, I slowly get looser and looser on my tension, so the stitches kind of get larger and larger. So when I'm doing that panel to flip underneath it, it was a little bit short last time. So I think just my solution to that is be a little bit tighter, or be a little bit tighter on the bobble stitches, or being a little bit looser on that panel piece. Either one, whichever one works out better is kind of what I'll do. But yeah, so I'm going to keep working on this, and then I will check in shortly to kind of give an update of where we're at for the night. Alright, so it's been a minute since I checked in last. It's been like a couple days, but so far I have gotten through at least the first section. Of the 5 or 3 point increases. We initially were increasing 2 on each end, so one at the start and one at the end. Then we changed to increasing, I believe, 3 or 4, I can't remember, might have been 5 even. So we went from increasing 1 on each side to then increasing 5 throughout the piece, and now we've changed to increasing at 3 points, but it's 6 stitches each time. Or it's 6 stitches per row. So you'll see here we have 3 stitches in this one space, and we just kind of repeat that for a couple more rows. The only other like trick I did, I guess you could say, is at one point when we're doing those 3 when we're doing the 5 stitch increase rows, sorry, when we're doing those rows, towards the end of that section, it has you not add a row between the increase rows, and I still ended up doing that, I think, the whole way, just to give myself a little bit of extra length on this. That's really the only change I've made so far. So I'm gonna finish up today probably the 3 stitch increases, or the 3 and 1 stitch increases, and then hopefully get to the bobble stitches or just get through the increasing. But I will check in again once we get to that point. I'm also sick again, so if I'm a little tired sounding or looking, it's just because I'm sick again. But anywho, that's where I'm going to get to hopefully today, and I'll check in again then. Alright, so I ended up finishing up all the increase rows and started working on the bobble rows. I remember the last time when I made this, I had a similar issue. I cannot get the correct number of bobble stitches, so I did the 3 extra rows for the increasing to do the larger size hood. However, when you do the bobble stitches, it tells you how many you should have for the smaller size and the larger size, and I am 1 short for some reason on that first row, even though I marked everything correctly, and I had this problem last time as well. I don't remember how I fixed it. So I'm just staying 1 short, and I think I'm also going to do a couple extra rows than it wants me to. I think I mentioned that already. But it wants us to do, I believe, 7 rows. I think I'm going to do closer to 10, just so that it has a nice wide or large like brim overhang. So I'm probably going to work on this for a little bit longer tonight, and then work on the rest of it tomorrow and hopefully finish it tomorrow. Alright, so I finished the second rendition of this hood. I think it still has some issues, but I think part of those issues are more of a me issue versus pattern issue. So to begin with, really my main problem is it still feels small. Like I don't know what to say about it. I did extra rows. I was closer to the gauge this time, like exactly on it, and it still feels small, frumpy. Like it's large, it's definitely much larger than the first rendition, but it still has issues, and I'm a little bit frustrated about it. Again, I don't think this is a pattern issue, I think it's a me issue. But positive to that is because I made it slightly larger, it does have a little bit more of the gaping and the flowing bit. It also has, I was able to fix that over curling we had on the last version. Really, I just ended up using a 4mm hook towards the end to give it at least a little bit of a curl. I also added a tassel to the end, as you can see. But I think because this yarn, again, technically was not the correct gauge, it's a little bit too thin still. Here's what it looks like from the back. It comes down kind of to where I thought it would. The full tassel reaches about as far down as I thought it would, and with the tassels here, I ended up just making the ends a little uneven. Part of me is tempted to brush them out, I don't know. But that is this hood. So far, I don't mind it. I think it works nicely. But again, I think wrong yarn choice once again. And maybe I just do not like the way this pattern works. Like that's part of where I'm at right now, is I'm thinking that just maybe this pattern isn't for me, like I was hoping it would be. Maybe it's because of the yarn I'm using. I'm not really sure. Let me know what you think below, because I don't know. I may have been crocheting for over 10 years, but sometimes it's things like this that just don't click for me all the way, where I can't figure out what the problem is till somebody else points it out. So if you have any advice on this, or you have any input you want to provide, please do so. I would be happy to hear it. And here's a glance at it as well. So again, we have that mild curling happening here. So it's just curling a little bit, which is nice. And you have my little tassel there. We come down to the rest of the hood. I have 9 rows of the bobble stitch. The pattern looks kind of cute. And again, overall, this turned out very nice. It's much larger than the original version that I made. I think I'm still going to modify the pattern a little bit.
I think I'm going to make this a third time. I don't know if I'm going to record it a third time, but I'm definitely going to make it at least one more time. I also like that you can toss it on like this. But that is it for today's video. If you have any questions or have any feedback, please leave it below. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!